My name is Queen Carrasco, and today I'll be discussing the online and offline power of activist groups. For the context of my research talks about digital activism, which is the use of social media for social change across social platform applications. This definition is contested within the sociological community as there are many pockets, such as cyber activism, info activism, and e-activism. There's confusion over whether digital activism focuses on environment, practices, or its value, as well as whether it counts as online organizing. Currently, social movements and organizations have expanded their message and planning from solely real life to social media. And so, as social justice injustice issues escalate, social media has served as a space where people can convene and engage in discourse. Such spaces and apps include X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, which is under Meta. And so some examples of digital activist movements that our audience might know was the Arab Spring, which took place on Twitter in the 2010s, the Black Lives Matter movement, which is an online and offline activist movement taking place on Twitter, Instagram, as well as demonstrations in person, the hashtag #MeToo movement, which was predominantly on Twitter, and the NSARS Now movement, which was again on Twitter. For this study, my research question was, do activist organizations with social media accounts have a greater impact in spreading their message to the public compared to organizations that do not have social media? For my research endeavor, I conducted a literature review, and so these two texts, Digital Activism Decoded, The New Mechanics of Change, as well as What is Digital Activism Anyway, Social Constructions of the Digital and Contemporary Activism, were really important pieces of literature that I focused on. Digital Activism Decoded is a compilation of essays edited by Mary Joyce, which provides the possibilities about the dynamics and future of digital activism as thought in 2010. And so activist scholars and writers shared how this digital concept can impact change for better or for worse. The compilation attempted to answer what is the value of digital activism within our global society. Conversely, Melissa Agzula, in her essay, she argued that digital activism is a hazy and eminently problematic, if not dysfunctional concept. And so these were kind of two important points that I chose to keep in the back of my mind during research. For this project, this was a pilot study with 4 semi-structured interviews with college students ages 18 to 22. These interviews were transcribed and analyzed thematically, and so I avoided placing value judgments on organizations that an interviewee discussed, meaning that when I was preparing to ask my questions in my interview guide, I made sure not to ask questions that were related to whether or not this was a quote unquote good or bad activist group, because that wasn't my point to ascertain. Rather, I just wanted to focus on the impact that it had on the person. Furthermore, at my positionality, I support activist organizations and I'm a member of groups focused on social justice issues. So at City College, I'm the secretary of the Black Students Union, I'm a writer on our school's paper, and I'm a racial justice fellow for the upcoming academic year. We had 5 findings, 3 of which were identity statements, references interviewees made directly to themselves and the characteristics that shape them. So racial and ethnic identity, sexuality, religion, attention statements, how the interviewee decides what issues to pay attention to most, and group values, which were traits that interviewees believed a good activist group possessed. Furthermore, we had 2 more online versus in real life activity, which was the activity that the activist group took part in online, such as posting or in person, which was demonstrating, as well as interaction and self-action. Interviewee interacts with a group either in person or online, and then does something in response to that group. And so for our presentation today, we're going to focus on our last 2 themes, online versus in real life activity and interaction and self-action. And so 2 of the questions that I asked in relation to our theme here were, how active would you say this group is on social media, and how active would you say this group is in real life? All 4 interviewees acknowledged that their chosen activist groups had some activities going on in real life and on social media. However, even in their acknowledgements, they attributed various reasons to the differences in social media activity and in real life, as some said that while they saw activity in real life, there was a disconnect between what was being done and what could be done. Additionally, one thing that I found was interesting was that some answered the question relating to real life through the lens of social media. And so that means that the actions that they saw were being filmed and posted on multiple Instagram accounts. For our interaction and self-action, I define self-action as the action that the interviewee takes based on their interaction with the activist group. The questions I asked in relation to this theme were, could you give me an example of an activity or an action that ties you to the social justice issue? As well as, could you give me an example of a time that you interacted with these groups via social media? What was that interaction like? And so examples that came forth were, for reference, the interviewees observed and tried to keep up to date with the posts that they were being shown. Some interviewees donated money, and some simply shared posts to their friends and family. Results. So while findings were mixed, all 4 interviewees felt that their activist group demonstrated some activity in real life, and sentiments were mixed as to whether the activity connected to them. Again, our additional themes were identity statements, attention statements, and group values. So interviewees numbers 1 through 3 made identity statements about issues they cared about and paid attention to more, while interviewee number 4 had a neutral approach and did not associate identity with their answers. These responses indicated that the groups in real life activity were viewed through the lens of social media, so what they saw being posted, as 3 of 4 interviewees said that their groups were active on social media. And so while findings were mixed, one's identity influences the issues that one cares about and can factor into the impact an activist group has on that individual, whether online or offline. Moreover, while activity occurs on both social media and in real life, the levels to which they reach the target audience or connect to the public can be more questionable. I'm really sorry that I can't be here in person or on hybrid, I guess, presenting my presentation, but if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me in an email. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you for sharing your research with us. I'll take the opportunity to ask you a few questions, and like you said, everyone in the audience wants to reach myself as well. My first question for you is, what was something that surprised you about your findings?
Yeah, I guess one thing that surprised me was that my findings weren't as clear cut as I thought they'd be. In my head, I suppose that I expected subjects to see more activity online, as again, I'm involved in activist groups and I see that activity online and in social media, as well as feel that we kind of inhabit a digital space. And so I really felt that like people were paying more attention to online and that real life activity didn't have any sort of prevalence.
And what avenues for future research, if any, were suggested to you as you did this research?
Um, Definitely 2 separate avenues. We saw the importance of identity statements in my research, as 3 or 4 interviewees made statements that were related to issues that they cared about and their identity. So one possible avenue could be looking at collective identity within activist groups and the ties that an individual's identity might shine through with those activist groups. Another avenue could be with slacktivism, which is defined by Evgeny Morozov as the feel-good online activism that has zero political or social impact. So one possibility would be to question how interviewees feel specifically on social media when interacting with activist groups.
Thank you, Queen. Best of luck with your future research. We hope you
Thank you.
continue this, and it was lovely having you.
Thank you.
Have fun in London.
Thank you.